Introduction to Business, 2nd edition, an OpenStax textbook. Read along with the full text at openstax.org. This audiobook was produced by Open Audio. Listen for free on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or on our website at openaudio.us.
Chapter 9. Motivating Employees. Introduction.
Learning outcomes. After reading this chapter, you should be able to answer these questions. 1. What are the basic principles of Frederick Taylor's concept of scientific management? 2. What did Elton Mayo's Hawthorne Studies reveal about worker motivation? 3. What is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how do these needs relate to employee motivation? 4. How are McGregor's theories X and Y and Uchi's theory Z used to explain worker motivation? 5. What are the basic components of Herzberg's Motivator-Hygiene theory? 6. What 4 contemporary theories on employee motivation offer insights into improving employee performance? 7. How can managers redesign existing jobs to increase employee motivation and performance? 8. What initiatives are organizations using today to motivate and retain employees?
Exploring Business Careers. Chuck Kaplan, Sienna Corporation. Chuck Kaplan loves music and playing in a band, but he does not work in the music industry. He works for Sienna Corporation, a global supplier of telecommunications networking equipment, software, and services. Kaplan spends his days leading a team to help customers solve business problems by updating and creating revenue through their networks, the process of modernizing and monetizing networks. He also plays music with OTN Speedwagon, Sienna's all-employee band. OTN Speedwagon was created after Kaplan thought the entertainment at a corporate function was cheesy. He and 3 others took the idea of creating an employee band to their boss, and OTN Speedwagon was born. Its name comes from the networking technology Sienna implements, Optical Transport Network, and the rock band REO Speedwagon. Its members are from all over the globe. The band is made up of employees from multiple departments, time zones, and countries. Members included an executive administrative assistant in London, England, a CTO in Dallas, Texas, sales system engineers in Dallas, Texas, and St. Louis, Missouri, an account manager in Denver, Colorado, senior managers in Baltimore, Maryland, and New York, New York, a sales consultant in Atlanta, Georgia, vice presidents in Atlanta, Georgia, and Dallas, Texas, and a materials management leader in Ottawa, Canada. When playing with the band, they set aside their job titles and focus on producing award-winning music. OTN Speedwagon performs songs in a variety of styles and enjoys performing whenever and wherever opportunity exists. A highlight was the opportunity to compete at the Fortune Battle of the Corporate Band, which was then a popular competition for all employee bands. OTN Speedwagon won the event one year, beating 7 other corporate bands. 2 members also walked away with individual awards, Best Guitarist and Best Horns. Producing great music together is not easy. Everyone knows one person being off-tempo or off-key can ruin a song. Because the band members have different job responsibilities and live in separate countries, they are rarely together. Scheduling live rehearsals is a major challenge, and they often happen only the day of or day before an event. The band is up to the challenge, though, and harnesses technology to solve the problem. The members discuss songs to sing, enough for a multi-hour show, and pick a key for each song that fits the lead vocalist. One member makes an MP3 soundtrack for each song and shares it and lyrics with the others through a secure file sharing system. Everyone spends hours practicing to the soundtracks, alone. But hard work and dedication pay off. When the band finally is together, often one time through is enough to perfect each song. Opportunities and benefits, such as being part of the band, pay dividends for Sienna, certified as a great place to work. Band members say trust in each other to do each person's part makes the band a success. Everyone knows what to do and does it, and that level of trust transfers back to the workplace. Members have built trust in coworkers, knocked down walls, and become more collaborative. The experience has brought the employees together, some meeting for the first time at rehearsal, and made the company seem more like a family. Bonus benefit: corporate events are much more entertaining.
This chapter details motivational theory, both historically and currently, and applies that theory to the business world, where motivation, whether in the form of a rock band or not, is a key to success. People can be a firm's most important resource. They can also be the most challenging resource to manage well. Employees who are motivated and work hard to achieve personal and organizational goals can become a crucial competitive advantage for a firm. The key then is understanding the process of motivation, what motivates individuals, and how an organization can create a workplace that allows people to perform to the best of their abilities.
Nine point one: Early theories of motivation. Learning objective. What are the basic principles of Frederick Taylor's concept of scientific management?
Motivation is the set of forces that prompt a person to release energy in a certain direction. As such, motivation is essentially a need and want satisfying process. A need is best defined as the gap between what is and what is required. Similarly, a want is the gap between what is and what is desired. Unsatisfied needs and wants create a state of tension that pushes or motivates individuals to practice behavior that will result in the need being met or the want being fulfilled. That is, motivation is what pushes us to move from where we are to where we want to be, because expending that effort will result in some kind of reward. Rewards can be divided into two basic categories: intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic rewards come from within the individual, things like satisfaction, contentment, sense of accomplishment, confidence, and pride. By contrast, extrinsic rewards come from outside the individual and include things like pay raises, promotions, bonuses, prestigious assignments, and so forth. Exhibit 9.3 illustrates the motivation process. Successful managers are able to marshal the forces to motivate employees to achieve organizational goals. And just as there are many types of gaps between where organizations are and where they want to be, there are many motivational theories from which managers can draw to inspire employees to bridge those gaps. In this chapter, we will first examine motivational theories that grew out of the Industrial Revolution and early ideas of organizational psychology. Then, we will examine needs-based theories and more contemporary ideas about employee motivation like equity, expectancy, goals, and reinforcement theories. Finally, we will show you how managers are applying these theories in real-world situations. How can managers and organizations promote enthusiastic job performance, high productivity, and job satisfaction? Many studies of human behavior in organizations have contributed to our current understanding of these issues. A look at the evolution of management theory and research shows how managers have arrived at the practices used today to manage human behavior in the workplace. A sampling of the most influential of these theorists and research studies are discussed in this section.
Exhibit 9.3: Model of Motivation. The model of motivation illustrates the psychological drive to close a performance gap, visualized as an archer aiming an arrow toward a distant target. The distance between the individual and their goal represents the gap between where we are and where we want to be. This journey is fueled by two distinct types of drivers. First, there are extrinsic motivators, which are external rewards, like financial compensation. Second, there are intrinsic motivators, which come from internal rewards, like personal satisfaction and a sense of accomplishment. Driven by these factors, the individual moves through a clear progression. The process begins with internal tension, which translates directly into effort, and ultimately culminates in satisfaction once the target is reached.
Frederick Taylor's scientific management. One of the most influential figures of the classical era of management, which lasted from about 1900 to the mid-1930s, was Frederick W. Taylor, a mechanical engineer, sometimes called the father of scientific management. Taylor's approach to improved performance was based on economic incentives and the premise that there is one best way to perform any job. As a manager at the Midvale and Bethlehem Steel Companies in Philadelphia in the early 1900s, Taylor was frustrated at the inefficiency of the laborers working in the mills. Convinced that productivity could be improved, Taylor studied the individual jobs in the mill and redesigned the equipment and the methods used by workers. Taylor timed each job with a stopwatch and broke down every task into separate movements. He then prepared an instruction sheet telling exactly how each job should be done, how much time it should take, and what motions and tools should be used. Taylor's ideas led to dramatic increases in productivity in the steel mills and resulted in the development of 4 key principles of scientific management. 1. Use a scientific approach to allocate each task. 2. Scientifically select, train, and develop employees. 3. Require collaboration between employees and managers. 4. Divide work tasks among employees according to who is better suited to perform the task. Taylor published his ideas in the Principles of Scientific Management. His pioneering work vastly increased production efficiency and contributed to the specialization of labor and the assembly line method of production. Taylor's approach is still being used a century later in companies such as UPS, where industrial engineers maximize efficiency by carefully studying every step of the delivery process, looking for the quickest possible way to deliver packages to customers. Though Taylor's work was a giant step forward in the evolution of management, it had a fundamental flaw in that it assumed that all people are primarily motivated by economic means. Taylor's successors in the study of management found that motivation is much more complex than he envisioned.
Concept check. 1. How did Frederick Taylor's studies contribute to the early understanding of human motivation? 2. How are Taylor's insights still seen in today's management practices?
9.2. The Hawthorne Studies. Learning objective. What did Elton Mayo's Hawthorne Studies reveal about worker motivation?
The classical era of management was followed by the human relations era, which began in the 1930s and focused primarily on how human behavior and relations affect organizational performance. The new era was ushered in by the Hawthorne Studies, which changed the way many managers thought about motivation, job productivity, and employee satisfaction. The studies began when engineers at the Hawthorne Western Electric Plant decided to examine the effects of varying levels of light on worker productivity, an experiment that might have interested Frederick Taylor. The engineers expected brighter light to lead to increased productivity, but the results showed that varying the level of light in either direction, brighter or dimmer, led to increased output from the experimental group. In 1927, the Hawthorne engineers asked Harvard professor Elton Mayo and a team of researchers to join them in their investigation. From 1927 to 1932, Mayo and his colleagues conducted experiments on job redesign, length of workday, and workweek, length of break times, and incentive plans. The results of the studies indicated that increases in performance were tied to a complex set of employee attitudes. Mayo claimed that both experimental and control groups from the plant had developed a sense of group pride because they had been selected to participate in the studies. The pride that came from this special attention motivated the workers to increase their productivity. Supervisors, who allowed the employees to have some control over their situation, appeared to further increase the workers' motivation. These findings gave rise to what is now known as the Hawthorne effect, which suggests that employees will have higher productivity when they receive attention from management as to their welfare. The attention paid to employees' needs has a motivational effect on job performance. Further studies also revealed that the social relationships of employees working in groups can impact productivity. The results of the Hawthorne studies enhanced our understanding of what motivates individuals in the workplace. They indicate that in addition to the personal economic needs emphasized in the classical era, social needs play an important role in influencing work-related attitudes and behaviors.
Concept check. 1. How did Mayo's studies at the Hawthorne plant contribute to the understanding of human motivation? 2. What is the Hawthorne effect? 3. Was the practice of dimming and brightening the lights ethical?
9.3. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Learning objective. What is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how do these needs relate to employee motivation?
Another well-known theorist from the behavioral era of management history, psychologist Abraham Maslow, proposed a theory of motivation based on universal human needs. Maslow believed that each individual has a hierarchy of needs, consisting of physiological, safety, social, esteem, and self-actualization needs, as shown in Exhibit 9.5. Maslow's theory of motivation contends that people act to satisfy their unmet needs. When you're hungry, for instance, you look for and eat food, thus satisfying a basic physiological need. Once a need is satisfied, its importance to the individual diminishes, and a higher level need is more likely to motivate the person. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the most basic human needs are physiological needs, that is, the needs for food, shelter, and clothing. In large part, it is the physiological needs that motivate a person to find a job. People need to earn money to provide food, shelter, and clothing for themselves and their families. Once people have met these basic needs, they reach the second level in Maslow's hierarchy, which is safety needs. People need to feel secure, to be protected from physical harm, and to avoid the unexpected. In work terms, they need job security and protection from work hazards.
Exhibit 9.5. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The diagram illustrates Maslow's hierarchy of needs, structured as a 5-level pyramid that climbs sequentially from foundational survival requirements to higher-level personal growth. The journey begins at the base with the first level, physiological needs, which represent essential survival requirements, such as food, water, and shelter. Directly above that is the second level, safety needs, focusing on security, stability, and protection from harm. As the pyramid narrows, it transitions to interpersonal fulfillment. The third level consists of social needs, which involve belonging, love, and meaningful relationships. Higher still is the fourth level, esteem needs, centering on self-respect, recognition, and status. Finally, the pyramid culminates at its peak with the fifth level, self-actualization needs, representing personal growth, achieving one's full potential, and self-fulfillment.
Physiological needs and safety are physical needs. Once these are satisfied, individuals focus on needs that involve relationships with other people. At Maslow's third level are social needs, or needs for belonging, acceptance by others, and for giving and receiving friendship and love. Informal social groups, on and off the job, help people satisfy these needs. At the fourth level in Maslow's hierarchy are esteem needs, which are needs for the respect of others and for a sense of accomplishment and achievement. Satisfaction of these needs is reflected in feelings of self-worth. Praise and recognition from managers and others in the firm contribute to the sense of self-worth. Finally, at the highest level in Maslow's hierarchy are self-actualization needs, or needs for fulfillment, for living up to one's potential and for using one's abilities to the utmost. In order to give you a better understanding of how Maslow's hierarchy applies in the real business world, let's look at a detailed example about Wegmans supermarkets. When you think of your first choice job, you probably aren't thinking about working in a supermarket. With a lack of flexibility, lower pay, limited opportunities for development, and an annual turnover around 50 to 70%, supermarkets are generally not considered the best places to work, unless you work at Wegmans. Wegmans has been named to the Fortune 100 Best Companies to Work For list for 28 consecutive years, which also earned Wegmans' designation as a Great Place to Work legend. Part of what makes Wegmans successful is the company's attention to its employees' needs at all levels of Maslow's hierarchy. The company pays above-market wages. The sous chef at a Pittsburgh store used to work for Thomas Keller's French Laundry in Napa Valley. And talent like that doesn't come cheap, and provides generous, comprehensive benefits to both full-time and part-time employees. physiological needs. Wegmans workers retain at a higher rate, with 60% of employees saying that they would stay with the company even if offered a position with higher pay. Furthermore, 2/3 of employees feel that the company is doing what they need to do to retain them. Safety needs. Because employees stay so long, the Wegmans culture has become stronger and more ingrained over time. Edward McLaughlin, director of Cornell's Food Industry Management Program, says, "When you're a 16-year-old kid, the last thing you want to do is wear a geeky shirt and work for a supermarket. But at Wegmans, it's a badge of honor. You are not a geeky cashier. You are part of the social fabric, social needs." Sarah Goggins, a 19-year-old college student, was complimented on the display she helped prepare for the store's French-inspired patisserie by Danny Wegman himself. Esteem needs. Sarah keeps a photo of her and Danny Wegman behind the counter. Maria Benjamin used to bake chocolate meatball cookies to celebrate coworkers' birthdays. They were so popular that she asked Danny Wegman if the store would sell them in the bakery department. He said yes, and it did. Employees like Sarah and Maria are routinely recognized for their contributions to the company. Esteem needs. Wegmans has spent $150 million for college scholarships for nearly 50,000 employees since 1984. Investing in employee development is a core focus of Wegmans, as evidenced by spending $50 million annually in employee training and development. These growth opportunities are varied across positions in the company, even developing employees into culinary experts. Self-actualization needs. As you can see from this extended example, Wegmans works hard to meet its employees' needs at all levels. Maslow's theory is not without criticism, however. Maslow claimed that a higher level need was not activated until a lower level need was met. He also claimed that a satisfied need is not a motivator. A farmer who has plenty to eat is not motivated by more food, the physiological hunger need. Research has not verified these principles in any strict sense. The theory also concentrates on moving up the hierarchy without fully addressing moving back down the hierarchy. Despite these limitations, Maslow's ideas are very helpful for understanding the needs of people at work and for determining what can be done to satisfy them.
Concept check. 1. What is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how does it help in understanding human motivation? 2. What are some criticisms of Maslow's hierarchy?
9.4. McGregor's theories X and Y. Learning objective. How are McGregor's theories X and Y and Ochi's theory Z used to explain worker motivation?
Douglas McGregor, one of Maslow's students, influenced the study of motivation with his formulation of two contrasting sets of assumptions about human nature: Theory X and Theory Y. The Theory X management style is based on a pessimistic view of human nature and assumes the following. The average person dislikes work and will avoid it if possible. Because people don't like to work, they must be controlled, directed, or threatened with punishment to get them to make an effort. The average person prefers to be directed, avoids responsibility, is relatively unambitious, and wants security above all else. This view of people suggests that managers must constantly prod workers to perform and must closely control their on-the-job behavior. Theory X managers tell people what to do, are very directive, like to be in control, and show little confidence in employees. They often foster dependent, passive, and resentful subordinates. In contrast, a Theory Y management style is based on a more optimistic view of human nature and assumes the following. Work is as natural as play or rest. People want to and can be self-directed and self-controlled, and will try to achieve organizational goals they believe in. Workers can be motivated using positive incentives and will try hard to accomplish organizational goals if they believe they will be rewarded for doing so. Under proper conditions, the average person not only accepts responsibility, but seeks it out. Most workers have a relatively high degree of imagination and creativity and are willing to help solve problems. Managers who operate on theory Y assumptions recognize individual differences and encourage workers to learn and develop their skills. An administrative assistant might be given the responsibility for generating a monthly report. The reward for doing so might be recognition at a meeting, a special training class to enhance computer skills, or a pay increase. In short, the Theory Y approach builds on the idea that worker and organizational interests are the same. It is not difficult to find companies that have created successful corporate cultures based on Theory Y assumptions. In fact, Fortune's list of 100 best companies to work for and the Society for Human Resource Management's list of great places to work are full of companies that operate using a Theory Y management style. Delta Airlines, Sheetz Inc., Publix Supermarkets, and Bank of America are all examples of companies that encourage and support their workers. In the early 2000s, Genencor, an industrial biotechnology company, later acquired and integrated into larger firms, was recognized multiple times as a top workplace, having a culture that celebrates success in all aspects of its business. Employees can reward colleagues with on-the-spot awards for extraordinary effort. According to the company's former CEO, Robert Mayer, Genencor is truly unique among U.S. companies of any size. It is a model for innovation, teamwork, and productivity, and a direct result of our work hard, play hard, change the world philosophy. Investing in our employees has always been good business for Genencor. Theory Z. William O. Chi, Distinguished Professor Emeritus of Management and Organizations at the University of California, Los Angeles, has proposed a theory that combines US and Japanese business practices. He calls it Theory Z. Table 9.1 compares the traditional US and Japanese management styles with the Theory Z approach. Theory Z emphasizes long-term employment, slow career development, moderate specialization, group decision-making, individual responsibility, relatively informal control over the employee, and concern for workers. Theory Z has many Japanese elements, but it reflects US cultural values. In the past decade, admiration for Japanese management philosophy that centers on creating long-term relationships has declined. The cultural beliefs of groupthink, not taking risks, and employees not thinking for themselves are passé. Such conformity has limited Japanese competitiveness in the global marketplace. Today, there is a realization that Japanese firms need to be more proactive and nimble in order to prosper. It was that realization that led Japanese conglomerate Sony to name a foreigner as the CEO of Japan's most famous company. Over the years, Sony's performance has declined, until in April 2005, the company posted its biggest loss ever. Nobuki Ide, the former CEO who inherited Sony's massive debts and stagnant product lines, realized his strategy wasn't working. So he became determined to appoint a successor who would be able to transform Sony from the lumbering giant it had become back into the forward-thinking company it had been. Ide tapped Sir Howard Stringer, a Welsh-born American who had been running Sony's US operations. In doing so, Ide hoped to shock company insiders and industry analysts alike. It's funny, 100% of the people around here agree we need to change, but 90% of them don't really want to change themselves, he says. So, I finally concluded that we needed our top management to quite literally speak another language.
Table 9.1. Differences in management approaches. This table discusses three unique styles of management: traditional US management, Japanese management, and Theory Z, which is a combination of US and Japanese management.
Traditional U.S. management. The length of employment is relatively short-term. Workers are subject to layoffs if business is bad. The rate of evaluation and promotion is relatively rapid. Specialization in a functional area is considerable, where workers acquire expertise in a single functional area. Decision-making is on an individual basis. The responsibility for success or failure is assigned to the individual. Control by a manager is very explicit and formal, and the concern for workers is focused on the work-related aspects of a worker's life.
Japanese management. The length of employment is for a lifetime. Layoffs are never used to reduce costs. The rate of evaluation and promotion is relatively slow. Specialization in a functional area is minimal, where workers acquire expertise in organization instead of functional areas. Decision-making includes input from all concerned parties. The responsibility for success or failure is shared by the group. Control by a manager is more implicit and informal, and the concern for workers extends to the whole life of the worker.
Theory Z, a combination of US and Japanese management styles. The length of employment is long-term but not necessarily lifetime. Layoffs are considered inappropriate, leading to a stable, loyal workforce. Improved business conditions don't require new hiring and training. The rate of evaluation and promotion is slow by design. Managers are thoroughly trained and evaluated. Specialization in a functional area is moderate. All employees experience various functions of the organization and have a sense of what's good for the firm rather than for a single area. Group decision-making is prioritized for better decisions and easier implementation. The responsibility for success or failure is assigned to the individual. Control by a manager is relatively informal but with explicit performance measures. Concern for workers is relatively concerned with the employee's whole life, including their family.
Concept check. 1. How do the Theory X, Theory Y, and Theory Z management styles differ?
(9.5) Herzberg's Motivator-Hygiene theory. Learning objective. What are the basic components of Herzberg's Motivator-Hygiene theory?
Another important contribution to our understanding of individual motivation came from Frederick Herzberg's studies, which addressed the question, what do people really want from their work experience? In the late 1950s, Herzberg surveyed numerous employees to find out what particular work elements made them feel exceptionally good or bad about their jobs. The results indicated that certain job factors are consistently related to employee job satisfaction, while others can create job dissatisfaction. According to Herzberg, motivating factors, also called job satisfiers, are primarily intrinsic job elements that lead to satisfaction. Hygiene factors, also called job dissatisfiers, are extrinsic elements of the work environment. A summary of motivating and hygiene factors appears in Table 9.2. One of the most interesting results of Herzberg's studies was the implication that the opposite of satisfaction is not dissatisfaction. Herzberg believed that proper management of hygiene factors could prevent employee dissatisfaction, but that these factors could not serve as a source of satisfaction or motivation. Good working conditions, for instance, will keep employees at a job but won't make them work harder. But poor working conditions, which are job dissatisfiers, may make employees quit. According to Herzberg, a manager who wants to increase employee satisfaction needs to focus on the motivating factors, or satisfiers. A job with many satisfiers will usually motivate workers, provide job satisfaction, and prompt effective performance. But a lack of job satisfiers doesn't always lead to dissatisfaction and poor performance. Instead, a lack of job satisfiers may merely lead to workers doing an adequate job rather than their best. Although his findings have been used to explain employee motivation, in fact, his studies focused on job satisfaction, a different though related concept from motivation. Other criticisms focus on the unreliability of Herzberg's methodology, the fact that the theory ignores the impact of situational variables, and the assumed relationship between satisfaction and productivity. Nevertheless, the questions raised by Herzberg about the nature of job satisfaction and the effects of intrinsic and extrinsic factors on employee behavior have proved a valuable contribution to the evolution of theories of motivation and job satisfaction.
Table 9.2. Herzberg's motivating and hygiene factors. Herzberg's motivating factors include achievement, recognition, work itself, responsibility, advancement, and growth. Herzberg's hygiene factors include company policy, supervision, working conditions, interpersonal relationships at work, salary and benefits, and job security.
Concept check. 1. What is Herzberg's theory and how does it relate to an understanding of motivation? 2. How can a manager use an understanding of Herzberg's theory to motivate employees? 3. What are the limitations of Herzberg's theory?
Nine 9.6. Contemporary views on motivation. Learning objective. What 4 contemporary theories on employee motivation offer insights into improving employee performance?
The early management scholars laid a foundation that enabled managers to better understand their workers and how best to motivate them. Since then, new theories have given us an even better understanding of worker motivation. 4 of these theories are explained in this section: the expectancy theory, the equity theory, the goal-setting theory, and reinforcement theory. Expectancy theory. One of the best supported and most widely accepted theories of motivation is expectancy theory, which focuses on the link between motivation and behavior. According to expectancy theory, the probability of an individual acting in a particular way depends on the strength of that individual's belief that the act will have a particular outcome, and on whether the individual values that outcome. The degree to which an employee is motivated depends on 3 important relationships shown in Exhibit 9.7. 1. The link between effort and performance, or the strength of the individual's expectation that a certain amount of effort will lead to a certain level of performance. 2. The link between performance and outcome, or the strength of the expectation that a certain level of performance will lead to a particular outcome. 3. The link between outcomes and individual needs, or the degree to which the individual expects the anticipated outcome to satisfy personal needs. Some outcomes have more valence or value for individuals than others do.
Exhibit 9.7. How expectations can lead to motivation. This model outlines a linear journey connecting an individual's drive to their final satisfaction. The journey begins with effort, the energy a person invests, which transforms directly into performance, the tangible achievement. This performance then yields a specific outcome, such as a reward, which ultimately satisfies the person's individual needs. Throughout this entire progression, each step is linked to the next by expectancy, the underlying belief at every stage that one's actions will successfully lead to the next result.
Equity theory. Another contemporary explanation of motivation, equity theory, is based on individuals' perceptions about how fairly they are treated compared with their coworkers. In this context, equity means justice or fairness. And in the workplace, it refers to employees' perceived fairness of the way they are treated and the rewards they earn. For example, imagine that after graduation, you were offered a job that paid $55,000 a year and had great benefits. You'd probably be ecstatic, even more so if you discovered that the coworker in the next cubicle was making $45,000 for the same job. But what if that same colleague were making $59,000 for the same job? You'd probably think it unfair, particularly if the coworker had the same qualifications and started at the same time as you did. Your determination of the fairness of the situation would depend on how you felt you compared to the other person, or referent. Employees evaluate their own outcomes, for example, salary, benefits, in relation to their inputs, for example, number of hours worked, education, and training, and then compare the outcomes to inputs ratio to one of the following. 1. the employee's own past experience in a different position in the current organization. 2, the employee's own past experience in a different organization. 3, another employee's experience inside the current organization. Or 4, another employee's experience outside the organization. According to equity theory, if employees perceive that an inequity exists, they will make one of the following choices. Change their work habits. Exert less effort on the job. Change their job benefits and income. Ask for a raise. Steal from the employer. Distort their perception of themselves. I always thought I was smart, but now I realize I'm a lot smarter than my coworkers. Distort their perceptions of others. Cameron's position is really much less flexible than mine. Look at the situation from a different perspective. I don't make as much as the other department heads, but I make a lot more than most graphic artists. Leave the situation. Quit the job. Managers can use equity theory to improve worker satisfaction. Knowing that every employee seeks equitable and fair treatment, managers can make an effort to understand an employee's perceptions of fairness and take steps to reduce concerns about inequity. Goal-setting theory. Goal-setting theory is based on the premise that an individual's intention to work toward a goal is a primary source of motivation. Once set, the goal clarifies for the employee what needs to be accomplished and how much effort will be required for completion. The theory has 3 main components. 1. Specific goals lead to a higher level of performance than do more generalized goals. Do your best. 2. More difficult goals lead to better performance than do easy goals, provided the individual accepts the goal. And 3. Feedback on progress toward the goal enhances performance. Feedback is particularly important because it helps the individual identify the gap between the real, the actual performance, and the ideal, the desired outcome, defined by the goal. Given the trend toward employee empowerment in the workplace, more and more employees are participating in the goal-setting process. To help employees during peak holiday delivery seasons, UPS, FedEx, and the U.S. Postal Service often pay additional overtime to help achieve their goals. These companies strategically plan for the peak by hiring seasonal workers. For example, UPS hires over 100,000 seasonal employees to meet its team goals of on-time delivery. This strategy seems to work, with UPS reporting an on-time delivery rate of around 96% for the peak holiday season. Reinforcement theory. Reinforcement theory says that behavior is a function of its consequences. In other words, people do things because they know other things will follow. So, depending on what type of consequences follows, people will either practice a behavior or refrain from it. There are 3 basic types of consequences: positive, negative, and none. In general, we think of positive consequences as rewards, but a reward is anything that increases the particular behavior. By contrast, punishment is anything that decreases the behavior. Motivating with the reinforcement theory can be tricky because the theory is functional. All of its components are defined by their function rather than their structure. That is, consequences can operate differently for different people and in different situations. What is considered a punishment by one person may in fact be a reward for another. Nonetheless, managers can successfully use reinforcement theory to motivate workers to practice certain behaviors and avoid others. Often, managers use both rewards and punishment to achieve the desired results. For example, retailers have long needed additional help during peak selling days like Black Friday and Cyber Monday. To help meet these needs, Urban Outfitters recruited salaried workers for a 6-hour shift at its new fulfillment facility to help out some of their colleagues, and sold the idea to salaried employees as a team-building activity. The workers were offered transportation and paid lunches and asked to wear comfortable shoes. Although it was not mandatory, an Urban Outfitters spokesperson commented, "After successfully opening our new fulfillment center in June, we asked salaried employees at our home office to volunteer for shifts that would help support the new center through a busy month of October. Unsurprisingly, we received a tremendous response, including many of our senior management.
Expanding around the globe. Motivation is culture-bound. Most motivation theories in use today were developed in the United States by Americans and about Americans. Of those that were not, many have been strongly influenced by American theories. But several motivation theories do not apply to all cultures. For example, Maslow's theory does not often hold outside the United States. In countries higher on uncertainty avoidance, such as Greece, Portugal, and Belgium, as compared with those lower on uncertainty avoidance, such as Denmark and Singapore, security motivates employees more strongly than does self-actualization. Employees in high uncertainty avoidance countries often consider job security and lifetime employment more important than holding a more interesting or challenging job. Also contrasting with the American pattern, social needs often dominate the motivation of workers in countries such as Luxembourg, Denmark, and the Netherlands that stress the quality of life over materialism and productivity. When researchers tested Herzberg's theory outside the United States, they encountered different results. In New Zealand, for example, supervision and interpersonal relationships appear to contribute significantly to satisfaction, and not merely to reducing dissatisfaction. Similarly, researchers found that individuals in Asia, Canada, and Latin America cited certain extrinsic factors as being satisfying at a greater frequency than did their U.S. counterparts. In other words, the factors that motivate U.S. employees may not spark the same motivation in employees in other cultures. Some of the major differences among the cultural groups include the following. 1. Individualistic countries such as the United States and many Western European countries rank personal achievement high and supportive management lower in terms of motivators. 2. Collectivist countries such as France, Japan, and Brazil give greater importance to security and less importance to personal recognition. 3. Northern European countries such as Sweden have less interest in getting ahead and work towards recognition goals and place more emphasis on job accomplishment. In addition, they have more concern for people and less for the organization as a whole. It is important that their jobs not interfere with their personal lives. 4. Latin American and Southern European countries find individual achievement somewhat less important. Southern Europeans place the highest emphasis on job security, whereas both groups of countries emphasize fringe benefits. 5. Germany ranks high on security and fringe benefits, and among the highest on getting ahead. 6. Japan, although low on advancement, also ranks second highest on challenge and lowest on autonomy, with a strong emphasis on good working conditions and a friendly working environment. Critical thinking questions. 1. In today's global business environment, with its diversity of perspectives, can a manager ever successfully use equity theory? Why or why not? 2. What impact, if any, do these cultural differences have on managers managing an entirely American workforce? Explain.
Concept check. 1. Discuss the three relationships central to expectancy theory. 2. Explain the comparison process that is a part of equity theory. 3. How does goal-setting theory contribute to our understanding of motivation? 4. What are the main elements of reinforcement theory?
Nine 9.7 From Motivation Theory to Application. Learning Objective. How can managers redesign existing jobs to increase employee motivation and performance?
The material presented thus far in this chapter demonstrates the wide variety of theorists and research studies that have contributed to our current understanding of employee motivation. Now we turn our attention to more practical matters, to ways that these concepts can be applied in the workplace to meet organizational goals and improve individual performance. Motivational job design. How might managers redesign or modify existing jobs to increase employee motivation and performance? The following three options have been used extensively in the workplace. Job enlargement. The horizontal expansion of a job, increasing the number and variety of tasks that a person performs, is called job enlargement. Increasing task diversity can enhance job satisfaction, particularly when the job is mundane and repetitive in nature. A potential drawback to job enlargement is that employees may perceive that they are being asked to work harder and do more with no change in their level of responsibility or compensation. This can cause resentment and lead to dissatisfaction. Job enrichment. Job enrichment is the vertical expansion of an employee's job, whereas job enlargement addresses the breadth or scope of a job. Enrichment attempts to increase job depth by providing the employee with more autonomy, responsibility, and decision-making authority. In an enriched job, the employee can use a variety of talents and skills, and has more control over the planning, execution, and evaluation of the required tasks. In general, job enrichment has been found to increase job satisfaction and reduce absenteeism and turnover. Job rotation. Also called cross-training, job rotation is the shifting of workers from one job to another. This may be done to broaden an employee's skill base or because an employee has ceased to be interested in or challenged by a particular job. The organization may benefit from job rotation because it increases flexibility in scheduling and production, and because employees can be shifted to cover for absent workers or changes in production or operations. It is also a valuable tool for training lower-level managers in a variety of functional areas. Drawbacks of job rotation include an increase in training costs and decreased productivity while employees are getting up to speed in new task areas. Work scheduling options. As companies try to meet the needs of a diverse workforce and retain quality employees while remaining competitive and financially prosperous, managers are challenged to find new ways to keep workers motivated and satisfied. Today, there are many alternatives to the traditional work schedule, such as flexible hours, a compressed work week, remote options, and job sharing. One option for employees who want a work schedule that can change as their life needs change is a flexible work arrangement, in use at nearly 70% of US companies. Flex time allows employees to decide what their work hours will be. Employees are generally expected to work a certain number of hours per week, but have some discretion as to when they arrive at work and when they leave for the day. Another option for employees who want to maximize their leisure hours, indulge in 3-day weekends, and avoid commuting during morning and evening rush hours is the compressed work week. Employees work the traditional 40 hours, but fit those hours into a shorter work week. Most common is the 440 schedule, where employees work 4 10-hour days a week. Organizations that offer this option claim benefits ranging from increased motivation and productivity to reduced absenteeism and turnover. SHRM's Employee Benefits Survey has shown that compressed work weeks are offered by a minority of employers and have fluctuated over time. For example, the share of companies providing a compressed work week fell from 35% in 2013 to 29% in 2017. One of the reasons for the downward trend may be the increasing popularity of a 4-day work week. A 4-day work week, where employees work 32 hours or less, has also gained popularity. Data today show that nearly 60% of companies are open to a compressed or 4-day work week. In 2016, Amazon announced a pilot project that allowed some tech teams in their human resources department to work fewer hours for 75% of pay, but retain the same benefits as full-time employees. In contrast, Tower Paddleboards routinely offers reduced workday hours as an incentive a few months annually for any years when business increased over the previous year. Employees retain the same pay and obligations as before, so are challenged to be more productive in less time. Telecommuting is a work scheduling option that allows employees to work from home via a computer that is linked with their office, headquarters, or colleagues. During the COVID-19 pandemic, telecommuting became a necessity. With mandated shutdowns, companies had to pivot to alternative work arrangements. Telecommuting coupled with video conferencing technologies allowed companies to continue to operate despite the shutdowns. The remote working option is still utilized by many organizations post-pandemic. Often, employers will use a mix of these scheduling options, depending on the situation. Jacqueline Powella-Crew was a group leader in Intel's management engineering unit who worked a compressed schedule. She worked Monday through Thursday. And on 2 of those days, she telecommuted from her home. On the other 2 days, she worked a flexible schedule, sometimes getting to the office at 6 a.m., so she could be home when her children came home from school. Her former manager, Dan Enlow, was a U.S. Navy reservist and divorced dad, so he also used Intel's flexible schedule to meet his military and family needs. He saw the flexible scheduling as a key motivator for Intel's employees. I've had workers tell me flat out they were going to leave Intel if they didn't have the option of some flexibility with their schedules, he says. Ricardo Semler, CEO of Semco, a Brazilian conglomerate, sums up flexible work schedules this way. The essence to us at Semco was that people who are free people, who can act based on self-interest, who can balance their own lives, are much happier, more productive people. If you take a business call on a Sunday afternoon, for instance, why not go to the movies on a Monday? Semco's employees not only choose their own schedules, they often choose which part of the business to work for, and even how much they'll be paid. Job sharing is a scheduling option that allows 2 individuals to split the tasks, responsibilities, and work hours of one 40-hour-per-week job. Though used less frequently than flex time and the compressed work week, this option can also provide employees with job flexibility. The primary benefit to the company is that it gets 2 for the price of 1. The company can draw on 2 sets of skills and abilities to accomplish 1 set of job objectives. Mary Kay Stewart is an account executive at a broadcasting company in Austin, Texas. After her doctor warned her that the stress of her 100-mile commute could shorten her life, she pursued job sharing. She teamed up with a former coworker, and each works 3 days a week, working together on Wednesdays. Job sharing is a great solution to keeping people from burning out and preventing turnover, says Melissa Nicholson. She believes in the power of job sharing so much that after years of doing it herself, she founded WorkMuse to help companies set up job share arrangements. Not all partnerships have been successful, she admits, but when they are, she loves having the ability to be flexible and for the workers to cover each other and support each other. I'm able to just not think about email or work for 4 days a week, she said. That's just an impossibility for most people. Although each of these work scheduling options may have some drawbacks for the sponsoring organizations, the benefits far outweigh the problems. In 2025, 33% of the U.S. workforce engaged in flexible work arrangements, and this is expected to increase. Recognition and empowerment. All employees have unique needs that they seek to fulfill through their jobs. Organizations must devise a wide array of incentives to ensure that a broad spectrum of employee needs can be addressed in the work environment, thus increasing the likelihood of motivated employees. A sampling of these motivational tools is discussed here. Formal recognition of superior effort by individuals or groups in the workplace is one way to enhance employee motivation. Recognition serves as positive feedback and reinforcement, letting employees know what they have done well and that their contribution is valued by the organization. Recognition can take many forms, both formal and informal. Some companies use formal award ceremonies to acknowledge and celebrate their employees' accomplishments. Others take advantage of informal interaction to congratulate employees on a job well done and offer encouragement for the future. Recognition can take the form of a monetary reward, a day off, a congratulatory email, or a verbal pat on the back. Recognition does not have to come from superiors to be meaningful, however. At The Motley Fool, a financial services company dedicated to helping people invest better, employees use a workplace app to recognize the contributions of coworkers. In the app, employees are given gold to spend by thanking or complimenting one another, along with a statement of what the recipient did to earn it. The recipients cash in the gold for real prizes or gift cards. Employees say this type of recognition may be better than management recognition. Employee empowerment, sometimes called employee involvement or participative management, involves delegating decision-making authority to employees at all levels of the organization, trusting employees to make the right decision. Employees are given greater responsibility for planning, implementing, and evaluating the results of decisions. Empowerment is based on the premise that human resources, especially at lower levels in the firm, are an underutilized asset. Employees are capable of contributing much more of their skills and abilities to organizational success if they are allowed to participate in the decision-making process and are given access to the resources needed to implement their decisions. Netflix removes obstacles by utilizing a no-rules HR policy that eliminates most policies and procedures to show its trust in employee decision-making, including in decisions about expenses and vacations. Netflix hires fully formed adults and tells them to use their best judgment to act in the company's best interest. The company believes employees will be more productive if not bound by processes. These practices play a significant role in Netflix's success. The company is the leader for streaming services with over 260 million subscribers and is in the top 5% of companies for employee retention. Economic incentives. Any discussion of motivation has to include the use of monetary incentives to enhance performance. Currently, companies are using a variety of variable pay programs, such as piece rate plans, profit sharing, gain sharing, stock options, and bonuses, to encourage employees to be more productive. Unlike the standard salary or hourly wage, variable pay means that a portion of an employee's pay is directly linked to an individual or organizational performance measure. In piece rate pay plans, for example, employees are paid a given amount for each unit they produce, directly linking the amount they earn to their productivity. Profit-sharing plans are based on overall company profitability. Using an established formula, management distributes some portion of company profits to all employees. Gain-sharing plans are incentive programs based on group productivity. Employees share in the financial gains attributed to the increased productivity of their group. This encourages employees to increase productivity within their specific work area, regardless of the overall profit picture for the organization as a whole. One well-known approach to monetary incentives is the award of stock options, or giving employees the right to purchase a given amount of stock at below market prices. Stock can be a strong motivator, because those who receive the options have the chance to make a lot of money. Tax incentive changes can impact how much equity, stock, companies offer. But in 2025, over 40% of companies offered employee stock options. One popular incentive is the bonus. A bonus is simply a one-time lump sum monetary award. In many cases, employees receive bonuses for achieving a particular performance level, such as meeting or exceeding a sales quota. And it is not uncommon for bonuses to be substantial. Google created a Founders Award and gave millions in restricted stock to the winners when the award was active. A huge spot bonus for great work on a project. On average, yearly bonuses for employees range between 15 and 25%, determined by employee performance. That's not to say that small bonuses aren't good motivators. Google discovered the large range in values for the award, created jealousy instead of fostering better teamwork. Based on employee input, Google added non-monetary awards, such as gifts and trips, into their award structure. Spot bonuses allow companies to target employees that impact the bottom line and can help motivate average employees. Sarah Clausen received her first bonus from Dallas-based Associa, a property management company, for overseeing the rollout of video-based town halls. It really creates a feeling that your work is being valued and appreciated, she says. It definitely leads me to want to stay here and do a good job. Regardless of their size, bonuses can be an additional way companies recognize employees for a job well done and motivate them to perform at even higher levels. That is because bonuses can vary according to outcomes. Financial incentives that allow variability in compensation to reflect an individual employee's contribution are generally known as pay-for-performance programs. One of the many companies that use pay-for-performance programs is Allstate, which evaluates employees' individual performance on a scale. The size of the employee's bonus depends on their rating. For example, one employee might receive a bonus of $3,200, but another with the same job title with a higher performance rating might receive $4,000. The pay-for-performance approach can also be used for CEOs. Jane Fraser of Citigroup was the first woman to lead a major U.S. bank when she became CEO in 2021. Her compensation is over $25 million, which includes a base salary and annual bonuses that are tied to the company's performance. Bonuses are a combination of monetary awards as well as equity, stock. Data indicate that over 3/4 of businesses utilize some kind of pay-for-performance structure in their compensation packages. The percentage fluctuates widely by industry, with the finance and banking industries offering the highest percentages, as much as 50% of the employee's base salary, and retail being the lowest, around 2 to 5%. The average across all industries is approximately 10%.
Concept check. 1. Explain the difference between job enlargement and job enrichment. 2. What are the 4 work scheduling options that can enhance employee performance? 3. Are all employees motivated by the same economic incentives? Explain.
Nine 9.8 Trends in employee motivation. Learning objective. What initiatives are organizations using today to motivate and retain employees?
This chapter has focused on understanding what motivates people and how employee motivation and satisfaction affect productivity and organizational performance. Organizations can improve performance by investing in people. There are several ways to invest in employees, including 1. Development opportunities through education and training. 2. Employee ownership. 3. Work-life benefits to help employees outside of the workplace. And 4. Nurturing knowledge workers and their increasing significance. All of the companies making Fortune's annual list of the 100 best companies to work for know the importance of treating employees right. They all have programs that allow them to invest in their employees through programs such as these and many more. This section discusses each of these trends in motivating employees. Education and training. Companies that provide educational and training opportunities for their employees reap the benefits of a more motivated, as well as a more skilled workforce. Employees who are properly trained in new technologies are more productive and less resistant to job change. Education and training provide additional benefits by increasing employees' feelings of competence and self-worth. When companies spend money to upgrade employee knowledge and skills, they convey the message, "We value you and are committed to your growth and development as an employee."
Catching the entrepreneurial spirit. Everyone's a CFO. Andrew Levine, chairman of DCI, Development Counselors International, a New York-based place marketing and public relations firm, wanted to implement a more open management style at his company, so he added a financial segment to monthly staff meetings, during which he would share results and trends with his employees. Much to his surprise, employees seemed bored. During one staff meeting, he asked his employees how to calculate a profit, and only one employee knew how. Levine was astounded, both at his employees' general deficit in math concepts and at Barrios' knack for figures. Levine then decided to require employees to present the financial reports themselves. For the next staff meeting, Levine appointed Barrios the chief financial officer, CFO, of the day. Barrios explained the terminology in ways the average person could understand. Since the changes, employees have become well-versed in financial concepts. The employee assigned as CFO for the day meets with DCI's actual CFO prior to their scheduled presentation day. In this meeting, they review income, expenses, and other relevant financial information and statements. They discuss the revenue projections and general financial trends. The CFO of the day then prepares a presentation to share at the staff meeting. Employees at all levels think the training is beneficial for the company, stating that employees are trained not only in their job position, but also as a business executive. When an employee's turn comes around, they stand before their colleagues and deliver the financial numbers and trends. Employees presenting are encouraged to involve their coworkers in the discussion by asking questions of the audience and collaborating toward a mutual understanding of what the numbers are indicating about the company performance. CFO of the day has definitely been a good thing for DCI, which remains profitable. Employee and customer retention remain high. Levine has embraced the lessons of open management, or participative management. Participative management practices, such as open book management, were popularized by Jack Stack and Springfield Remanufacturing Corporation, SRC. Whether the term is CFO for a day, participative, or open book management, or great game of business, the goal is to teach employees about business, thereby engaging them in the business. Companies that embrace these practices believe employees will be more productive if they understand financials and feel like owners. And in the example of DCI, employees are no longer bored during the financial review section of the monthly meeting.
Employee ownership. A trend that continues in many compensation and benefits plans is employee ownership, most commonly implemented as employee stock ownership plans, or ESOPs. ESOPs are not the same as stock options, however. In an ESOP, employees receive compensation in the form of company stock. Recall that stock options give employees the opportunity to purchase company stock at a set price, even if the market price of the stock increases above that point. Because ESOP employees are compensated with stock, over time, they can become the owners of the company, which is attractive because if they leave the company, they retain their stock ownership. Behind employee ownership programs is the belief that employees who think like owners are more motivated to take care of customers' needs, reduce unnecessary expenses, make operations smoother, and stay with the company longer. According to the National Center for Employee Ownership, there are over 6,000 ESOPs in the United States, with a total of 15 million participants. Changes in tax laws can impact ESOPs. However, the amount of stock held by ESOPs in 2023 was over $2.1 trillion and is expected to increase. Employee ownership plans continue to be a powerful competitive tool in employee recruitment and retention. ESOPs, however, also have drawbacks. The biggest concern is that some employees have so much of their retirement savings tied to their company's ESOP. If the company's performance starts to decline, they risk losing a significant portion of their wealth. This is what happened at former grocery store chain Piggly Wiggly Carolina. Business started to decline. Employee and retirees watched as senior management made decisions to raise prices and then sell stores. The share value started to decline in the early 2000s, losing significant value until employees received notice that they would not get their distributions. Company executives stated they planned to make future payments when financial conditions improved. Employees filed a lawsuit in 2018 alleging senior management violated their duties by not acting as the stock value lost 90% of its value. The case was settled for nearly $9 million, with employees receiving a payout of approximately $1,000. Still, many companies successfully implement ESOPs. Axia Home Loans, a national residential mortgage lender based in Seattle, experienced record-breaking production and was able to attract top talent in the first year after creating its ESOP. After taking questions from non-managing shareholders about exit strategies, Gellert Dornay, president and CEO, looked into an ESOP and thought it would fit with the company's innovative and forward-thinking culture. Studies show that employee-owned companies experience increased employee satisfaction, retention, and productivity gains, Dornay said, adding, an ESOP rewards employees who contribute to the company's success by allowing them to share in the company's future increase in value. So what enables one company with an ESOP, such as Axia Home Loans, to be more successful than another, such as Piggly Wiggly? It has a lot to do with the way companies treat employees. You can't just call an employee an owner and expect them to respond positively. You have to do something to make them feel like an owner, and then involve them as owners. Piggly Wiggly illustrates that employee ownership is not a magic elixir. When employees run the company, our decision methodology is different. Everything is in the primary best interest of the shareholders, who are the employees, Dornay said. Work-life benefits. In recognition of the numerous and sometimes competing demands on employees' time, companies are looking for ways to help. Organizations are taking an active role in helping employees achieve a balance between their work responsibilities and their personal obligations. The desired result is employees who are less stressed, better able to focus on their jobs, and therefore more productive. One tool companies can use to help their employees is extended leave through sabbaticals. Sabbaticals can be traced back to ancient times and Hebrew Sabbath practices. Modern sabbaticals are rooted in higher education, first being offered at Harvard to faculty to conduct research in the late 1800s. Today, corporations have adopted the practice to assist with work-life balance and employee burnout. Sabbaticals offer employees extended time away from work that can be paid or unpaid, depending on company policies. In today's business environment, companies are juggling cutting costs and increasing profits, while simultaneously battling to keep employees motivated and positive about work. Sabbaticals can be an important tool to help managers achieve this balancing act. Reports vary on the percentage of companies that offer sabbaticals. However, offering employees this option can be an innovative tool to both recruit and retain employees. One benefit is that employees return refreshed and recharged. Morris Financial Concepts Incorporated, a small financial planning firm, offers all full-time employees a paid month-long sabbatical every 5 years. Kyra Morris, president and owner, says employees were working during vacations, even when discouraged not to. They are required to unplug during sabbaticals. Morris says sabbaticals work for both millennials and older employees and are a great recruiting tool. Zillow, the online real estate giant, offers 6-week half-paid sabbaticals to employees at all levels of the organization after 6 years. Amy Bohutinsky, Zillow Group's former chief operating officer and now board director, says the company wants to reward long-term employees, encourage them to have a life outside of work, and have them come back recharged. Another benefit is the opportunity to learn new skills, which can be an alternative to layoffs. Buffer, a social media management platform, has offered various sabbatical programs, including ones to help employees learn new skills to successfully transition into another department. Learning sabbaticals fit the company's value of self-improvement. Nurturing knowledge and learning workers. Most organizations have specialized workers, and managing them all effectively is a big challenge. In many companies, knowledge workers may have a supervisor, but they are not subordinates. They are associates. Within their area of knowledge, they are supposed to do the telling. Because knowledge is effective only if specialized, knowledge workers are not homogeneous, particularly the fast-growing group of knowledge technologists such as data analytics specialists, programmers, and AI engineers. The rapidly growing AI industry is shaping workplace needs, especially for knowledge workers, many of whom are freelancers, about 25%. Companies need employees with both technical skills as well as critical thinking and problem-solving abilities. AI engineers, developers, and consultants are working with companies of all sizes to assist with integrating this technology into their businesses. Because of the pace of change with AI, companies are looking to freelancers for this work, as they are often nearly 40% more efficient than their full-time employee counterparts with these skills. A knowledge-based workforce is qualitatively different from a less skilled workforce. Increasingly, the success, indeed the survival, of every business will depend on the performance of its knowledge workforce. The challenging part of managing knowledge workers is finding ways to motivate proud, skilled professionals to share expertise and cooperate in such a way that they advance the frontiers of their knowledge to the benefit of the shareholders and society in general. To achieve that auspicious goal, several companies have created what they call communities of practice. Coping with the rising costs of absenteeism. With today's companies trying to do more work with fewer employees, managers must be attentive to the impact morale and employee performance have on absenteeism and turnover. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the absence rate remains relatively steady around 2 to 4% for a variety of causes, including illness, childcare challenges, family care obligations, mental health needs, and transportation issues. It is estimated that employee absences cost companies as much as $575 billion annually. However, not all reasons for unscheduled absences are genuine. Although data show that around 2% of workplace absences are because of illness, there is some concern that employees are not really sick when they call in for an unscheduled absence. There are various reasons for an employee calling in sick when they are not really ill, including work burnout, mental health needs, home or family obligations, or lack of motivation to go into the workplace. While some employees are taking a day off, employees covering for unscheduled absences are pushed to do more. The result is lower productivity and lower morale, especially if chronic absenteeism is not addressed. In addition to an attendance policy, offering incentives for attendance, wellness programs, employee assistance programs, and other benefits that show care for employees can lower absenteeism rates. Another trend related to employee morale and absenteeism is turnover. The number of employees who are job searching is on the rise. A recent Gallup survey found that 51% of current employees are looking to leave their current job, but Newsweek reports that 92% are actively seeking new employment. Both figures are great cause for concern. A high rate of turnover can be expensive and dampen the morale of other employees who watch their colleagues leave the company. The top reasons cited for employee turnover are career opportunities, discontent with wages and benefits, and poor leadership. High rates of turnover, or absenteeism, at the management level can be destabilizing for employees who need to develop specific strategies to manage a steady flow of new bosses. High rates of turnover, or absenteeism, at the employee level compromises the company's ability to perform at its highest levels. In order to stay competitive, companies need to have programs in place to motivate employees to come to work each day and to stay with the company year after year.
Managing change. Using communities of practice to motivate knowledge workers. Communities of practice, COP, have been so named since the early 1990s as a way to motivate and engage employees. One company that has experienced tremendous success with COPs is Schlumberger Limited, an oil field services company with over $35 billion in annual revenue. As with all COPs, what Schlumberger calls Eureka groups are comprised of similar professional employees from across the entire organization. Employees participate in one or more of 284 Eureka groups, ranging from chemistry to oil well engineering. Before the establishment of the communities, Schlumberger's engineers, physicists, and geologists worked well on individual projects, but the company was ignorant of how to help its employees develop the professional sides of their lives. Since the company sells services and expertise, motivating and cultivating its knowledge workers was a critical success factor. Former CEO Ewan Baird felt he had tried everything to manage and motivate the company's technical professionals, and failed. That's when he decided to let them manage themselves. He ordered Schlumberger veteran Henry Edmondson to implement communities of practice. Schlumberger's Eureka communities have been a tremendous success and helped the company leverage its knowledge assets. Today, self-created CVs are posted on the company's internal website, allowing employees across the 85 countries where the company operates to consult the resume of nearly every company employee to find someone with a particular area of knowledge or expertise. Another reason the Eureka groups are so successful is that they are completely democratic. Participating employees vote on who will lead each community. An employee who is backed by his or her manager and at least one other community member can run for a term of office that lasts 1 year. At the time, the elected leaders of Schlumberger's Eureka communities cost the company about $1 million a year. Compared with other knowledge initiatives, it's a cheapie, said Edmondson. John Afilaka, a geological engineer who was a Schlumberger business development manager in Nigeria, stood for election to the head of the company's rock characterization community, a group of more than 1,000 people who are experts in determining what might be in an underground reservoir. He beat an opponent and spent 15 to 20% of his time organizing the group's annual conference and occasional workshops, overseeing the group's website, coordinating subgroups, and so forth. Retired CEO Andrew Gould says the self-governing feature is crucial to the Eureka community's success. Technical professionals are often motivated by peer review and peer esteem, he says, implying that stock options and corner offices aren't sufficient. The election of leaders, he says, ensures the integrity of peer judgments. Schlumberger's use of COPs is known worldwide. The company has been a 12-time European Make Most Admired Knowledge Enterprises winner and declared the overall winner 3 times. Most recently in 2017. Critical thinking questions. 1. How do you think communities of practice help companies like Schlumberger manage in dynamic business environments? 2. Although communities of practice are commonly thought of in regard to knowledge workers, could they successfully motivate other employees as well? Why do you think as you do?
Concept check. 1. What benefits can an organization derive from training and educational opportunities and stock ownership programs? 2. Why are sabbaticals growing in popularity as work-life balance tools? 3. How are knowledge workers different from traditional employees? 4. Why are absenteeism and turnover rates increasing? And what is the impact on companies?
Preparing for tomorrow's workplace skills. 1. Are you motivated more by intrinsic rewards, satisfaction, sense of accomplishment, etc., or by extrinsic rewards, money, bonuses, etc.? Interview some friends and classmates to find out what motivates them. Discuss your differences in perspective. 2. Think of a task or project you have completed recently that required a great deal of effort. What motivated you to exert so much energy to complete the task or project? Describe your motivation in terms of the theories presented in the chapter. 3. Not all jobs are intrinsically motivating. For example, many entry-level jobs often involve repetitive and simple tasks that can become rapidly boring. You may have worked a job that fits that description. How can managers motivate frontline employees, such as package handlers, hotel front desk workers, supermarket cashiers, etc., to perform at high levels? 4. If you were offered the opportunity to job share, would you need to have a partner who is motivated by the same things as you are? Why or why not? 5. Team activity. Assemble a team of 3 to 5 students. Imagine that you are the management team for a startup business, with limited resources but a need for a highly motivated, skilled workforce. Brainstorm ways you could motivate your employees other than large bonuses and high salaries.
Ethics activity. You join a large bank that encourages and promotes employee volunteerism, allowing employees 1 day a month, or up to 12 days a year, to volunteer for a cause of their choosing. Shortly after you start working there as a junior teller, your boss's spouse is diagnosed with a particularly aggressive form of breast cancer that carries a very poor prognosis. Realizing it will win you kudos with your boss, you choose the local chapter of the Susan G. Komen for the Cure Foundation, a breast cancer charity that sponsors an annual race for the cure, for your company-sponsored volunteer work. In addition to working at the foundation's office 1 day a month, you spend your own time actively soliciting other staffers at your firm to sign up for the charity walk in a few months' time. Impressed with your qualities of tireless dedication, your boss puts your name forward for promotion to junior bank officer well before the customary 2 years of service normally required for being considered for promotion. Using a web search tool, locate articles about this topic and then write responses to the following questions. Be sure to support your arguments and cite your sources. Ethical dilemma. Your company is generous in its approach to employee volunteerism. It gives you paid time off, and you acquire enhanced job skills through your volunteer activities. Have you just been smart in recognizing the value of volunteering for a charity that you know will earn your boss's personal appreciation? Or are you taking unfair advantage of your boss's vulnerability and manipulating the situation?
Critical thinking case. Motivating employees. A changing landscape. As mentioned earlier, U.S. businesses will face a changing workforce and modest growth in numbers, with employees from several different generations, as individuals choose to work past the traditional retirement age. And with advances in technology, business needs are expected to evolve. Societal shifts, in part due to the COVID-19 pandemic, have employees thinking beyond their salary to aspects such as work-life balance, flexible work arrangements, and more engaging/meaningful work experiences. Our study reveals that recruiters and hiring managers are not only cognizant of the issue, but are concerned about its current and future impact on organizational growth, said Dr. Jesse Harriott, former vice president of research at Monster.com, one of the leading global online career and recruitment resources. Businesses of all sizes and across all industries must develop and implement creative programs and strategies to attract and hire top candidates while retaining and motivating current employees. As the talent pool shrinks, it is imperative that immediate action is taken to ensure businesses are properly prepared and staffed for the future. In a sampling of 1,000 individuals, McKinsey & Company's survey showed that employees are motivated by clear, consistent expectations, with 72% of those surveyed indicating goal setting as a key motivator. The survey further found that opportunities for development through training and non-financial rewards were also sources of motivation to drive performance. While compensation is clearly a significant issue, not all companies can offer this advantage. Other strategies that motivate employee loyalty and commitment are necessary. Some of these include encouraging work-life balance through creative benefit programs, clearly articulating expectations and holding both employees and management accountable, offering training and development opportunities for those interested in advancement, considering a promote from within program, employee/PE mentoring programs, regular assessment of employee satisfaction, regular and consistent performance feedback with rewards, creating an engaging workplace that is not only designed to retain employees, but also to attract new talent. Diana Poley, who led the Poley Company, a Boston-based custom publishing firm, keeps vigilant watch over the morale of the office, ensuring that employees are satisfied. Business owners of growing companies must possess strong leadership and management skills in order to solidify the foundation of their business, said Poley. Effective team leadership is imperative to sustain efficient team workflows and contribute to employee morale. Improving employee morale with creative and effective management tactics ultimately boosts employee productivity, and that goes straight to the bottom line. Critical thinking questions. 1. How are social and economic factors influencing companies' approach to hiring, motivating, and retaining employees? 2. What are some of the non-monetary strategies companies must develop to attract and reward employees and keep them motivated? 3. What reward factors would be important to you when working for a company? List at least 5 in order of importance, and list your reasons for each. This has been Introduction to Business, 2nd edition, from OpenStax. OpenStax textbooks and this free audiobook are covered under a Creative Commons license. The full text is available at www.openstax.org. You can find this free audiobook anywhere you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Instructors can even download a course shell to easily embed these recordings in Canvas courses. Learn more by visiting www.openaudio.us. Did you find this audiobook helpful? If so, please let us know by leaving a comment and sharing this recording with a colleague or a friend.